Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. Having visited Fiesta, Texas many times while growing up in Houston and while living in San Antonio in 2021, I've ridden all of these coasters many, many times, though I do prefer not to ride Boomerang. 4 coasters in this park have even had the honor of being my number 1 overall coaster. And that is including Batgirl Coaster Chase, which likely was my first kiddie coaster. Some coasters I like more than your average coaster enthusiast because I've been able to experience solid rides with their drops. Others I prefer less, due to how they whip me around or otherwise beat me up. Find out which coasters are my favorite at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas in this countdown. Number 11. Boomerang, Coast to Coaster. This is one of my least favorite coasters on the planet. The overall concept isn't bad. The initial drop off the chain lift offers a solid drop feeling, and then you're blasted through a bunch of inversions, with a weird catching lift on the second hill. But the intensity of this coaster, especially going backwards, and especially the backwards loop, just beats me up too much to make it enjoyable. Riding this coaster requires me to sit down afterwards for at least 30 minutes before I can get my bearings back, and it just isn't worth doing that during a day at Fiesta, Texas, unless there's no line and a show you want to see right next door. The new restraints do help make this a more tolerable ride, but it still has too much bite for my tastes. Number 10. Chupacabra, formerly Goliath. Unlike most, I'm not a fan of B&M inverts, especially Batman the Ride clones. The drop is only okay, the 2 forceful loops are nice, I guess, and after that it just beats me up, and just is not overall too enjoyable. I do hate on these more than I should, but there are plain and simply 9 other roller coasters that I'd rather ride in this park than Chupacabra. Number 9. Batgirl Coaster Chase. This unique and simple kiddie coaster from Vekoma gets a lot of love from me, particularly because of the nice laterals that I've experienced on its drop. Since adults can ride it without a kid, I've ridden this coaster many times, and sadly have had to use my rope drop on it in recent visits since no other coasters were open on that side of the park. And I've been able to get some absolutely wonderful runs on its drop that has elevated it to a strong kiddie coaster for me. It's a very basic layout, but the freeing restraints help make this ride. Plus, there's enough history from riding this as a kid that it makes my heart truly appreciate this coaster. With a new paint job and its placement in the DC universe, that allows it to have nice theming and interactions with the Penguin Gotham City getaway underneath it, and it should continue to shine for many years to come. Defunct, Kid Flash Cosmic Coaster. This coaster was problematic to ride as it was often closed, but I was able to ride both sides during one of my visits over the summer. I like the DC side better as it had a bit more in the drops and airtime department, though both sides played well at being mild family coasters that everyone could enjoy. It didn't have some of the wild tossed about feelings of other kiddie coasters, like Myler manufacturer coasters such as Cyclone at P6 Farm, but did offer a nice complete package between drops, bumps, turns, and strong pacing. It may not be a high-ranking coaster, but this really was a solid and interesting family coaster that this park needed for its lineup, as there is a real lack of coasters for families at Fiesta, Texas. Number 8. Roadrunner Express. The theming on this coaster needs a bit of an update, but the setting against the quarry wall makes it really feel like a mine train coaster. The positive G's on its valleys are a bit stronger than I like, but offer a nice contrast with the many turning drops. Then I do love a good second left hill on a coaster, and Roadrunner Express delivers in beautiful fashion in this department. It is not the best coaster, but I've seen kids and adults come off this coaster enjoying themselves, and it's a solid family coaster. Number 7. Batman the Ride. This coaster gets a lot of love from kids, as I've met many kids who have this as their favorite coaster in the park, since they seem to really appreciate the powerful gimmicks of this coaster. While it is not too big or too scary, though that kinda depends on the context. For me, the flipping is nice, though a little scary, and the gimmick is well executed, but it just doesn't seem to offer more than random flipping, which is just not something that I really want to do all the time. I can appreciate this coaster's gimmick, but it isn't something that I desperately need to ride. Number 6. Poltergeist. When I first rode this coaster, I was blown away by its power, and at the time, it was my favorite overall coaster. Thus, it holds a special place in my heart as a truly solid mid-tier coaster. The launch is a nice mix of not having to worry since there's no lift hill, and a little bit of wondering and fearing what the actual launch is going to be like. But, after the launch, there's 3 large inversions that offer very little drop feelings, which as a young kid scared of drops, was a beautiful sight to see. Then, Poltergeist wraps through a spaghetti bowl of twists and turns. None of which are too great, but which is okay. With higher speeds since the 2021 retheme, I did notice some minor airtime pops over the various hills on some of my recent rides, which is actually a pleasant surprise. Finally, a super smooth corkscrew engine run. I feel like with the speed you pick up on this coaster, that this should be a whippy and not necessarily to my tastes, but it is a fine, smooth inversion ending a decent, though not great, ride. Number 5. Pandemonium. I do rank this coaster higher than most will at this park, but having ridden it many times, I have gotten great off-balance rides that spin a lot, as well as having experienced the magic of going over its bunny hills backwards and sideways. It is a solid spinning coaster, and one of the few coasters for families in this park. But I really find it to be a truly enjoyable ride, as it has elements that can deliver with spinning and airtime. I do feel there's more that could be done with this model and layout overall, but I'll be happy with what I have from the only roller coaster in my favorite section of Fiesta, Texas. Number 4. Superman Krypton Coaster. My first few rides on this coaster left me unimpressed. The inversions are snappy, the drop isn't too great with its curve, and the rest of the coaster doesn't do much with a large void of scenery since it has a giant lake in the middle. Other B&M floorless coasters or sit-down coasters don't seem to get this hate from me, but there just wasn't much special in this overall layout. But then, I rode this coaster in the front row, particularly on the right side of the train. The right side will have you lean and looking down both the initial drop as well as during the helix on top of the quarry wall, both experiences that help elevate this ride. The rush of wind in your face for this entire coaster is also absolutely fantastic. I've ridden in the second row, and it just is not the same at all. If you want to experience this ride in an enjoyable way, I'm waiting to ride in the front row. The record-setting vertical loop is also great in any seat that you sit in, with the middle probably maximizing the great hang time, one of the few benefits of not sitting in the front. On my most recent rides, I did get solid feelings off of a few of the drops while sitting in the front row as well, so this coaster may be even better than I give it credit for. However, it has tracked really bumpy on some of my more recent rides, which is odd as I base my belief in B&M smoothness off of this coaster in particular, and its current bumpiness prevented it from climbing higher in my overall rankings. It clearly is a solid B&M coaster. I just wish it was more consistent row to row for me, but I'll enjoy what I can get from its very front row rides. Number 3. Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger. The new, well-themed thrill coaster that this park had been hoping for fell a bit short for me in my initial rides. The pre-shows are nice, but I can't get over the barren areas that populate everything underneath the coaster. The vest restraints limit the airtime for me, so most of the drops aren't nearly as special as they could be. With the outside seats not being as good as they could, since they track really bumpy, I figured this coaster just was not an overall great experience, and a step down from other drop coasters like SheiKra. However, on my more recent rides, I've learned its secret. Ride in the back row, middle seat. The middle seats are meant for larger guests, so these restraints have a bit more give to them. Then, the back row helps one really feel the power of this drop, giving you a nice drop feeling, and making this easily one of the top 5 drops that I've experienced on any roller coaster. How seat placement can change my views of this ride so much, I'm not really sure, but there is something special about this ride in the right seat. Number 2. Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster. This coaster is powerful, as it works to throw you out of its seats. I wish the first drop was slightly better for me, as it is decent, but it's not super scary or super enjoyable. Just good and solid. The rest of the ride offers a barrage of solid elements, but the overall ride is over quickly, which doesn't give me enough time to truly enjoy this coaster. I have gone in multiple rides where I've been able to stay on this coaster and ride again, in my favorite row, the very front, because I got to this coaster first thing on a slow day, and the ability to ride this coaster back to back certainly helps with the feeling that its track is just too short. The new vest restraints are a bit more freeing, which is nice, though a bit strange in that they keep coming off my shoulders during my rides. And despite the closures to make this ride more reliable, I've still run into experiencing midday maintenance closures. Number 1. Iron Rattler. With the Rattler being my favorite all-time coaster, or my search for the best coaster is me looking for something that clearly beats the original Rattler in my mind, I hold Iron Rattler to the standard of being the best coaster in the world. And in that, it just falls a little short. Iron Rattler has amazing elements, from a super fun pre-lift, one of my favorite lift hills in the world, wonderful slow sideways airtime on top of the quarry wall, an absolutely fantastic bunny hill on top of that quarry wall, a tunnel, and a decent second major drop. I'm not a huge fan of the larger RMC elements after its first drop, though they are all decent and enjoyable, and have grown on me with more re-rides. The first drop is solid, but just wasn't fantastic for me. Probably closer to a 6.5 out of 10 as far as drops go, on my first few rides. But, after getting better drops on Dr. Diabolical, I found that riding Iron Rattler in the 7th row maximizes the drop for me, and have been able to feel the wonderful drop feeling on this drop on most recent rides. Iron Rattler also tracks insanely smooth, as I can ride this coaster and it will likely make me no more dizzy or more beat up than I already was, and I can't say that about Roadrunner Express next door. My largest complaint though is its length. The Rattler did 3 laps of turning around on top of the quarry wall, followed by an additional wrap-around loop after the tunnel. And if Iron Rattler would have followed this entire path, I think one could make a real case that it is one of the best layouts in the world. But for now, It has solid elements and will likely continue rising in my rankings as I come to like it more and more each year. Which roller coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas are your favorite? Are there any here that you really don't like? If you could add one coaster to this park's lineup, what would it be? Let me know. And, as always, Cupcoon Crap.